All right, we're live. We got to let it breathe just for a moment here while we weave in the Facebookers. And we're going to get this party started. Really stoked to see everybody tonight. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. Your football priests have been reunited. I'm Chad Jensen. That there, you know him, you love him. Zack Kelberman. Zack, first of all, dude, way to hold it down last week. Appreciate you doing that, brother. Great shows. And we got some stuff to talk about, dude. But how have you been?
I've been good. I mean, I've been following you guys at the Senior Bowl. Like, you guys have been killing it. It's been good catching up with everyone doing solo. But the football priests, like you said, Chad, are reunited now. And like you said, we have a lot of coaching news and turnover to talk about today. So I'm excited.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about your gut reaction. So Friday, I'm flying home. We learned that Pete Carmichael, Denver Broncos senior offensive assistant, and let's not forget, it was a role that Sean Payton literally created to bring Pete Carmichael in because he already had an offensive coordinator at the time. Nevertheless, hires on with Joe Brady as his offensive coordinator. And like, dang, that's interesting. Whatever it is, it's something like it's going to be only the third season since 2006 that Pete Carmichael is not on a Sean Payton staff. Then we find out the next day, Jim Leonard, just like that, defensive coordinator, Zach, Buffalo Bills. So your gut reaction to those two hires, Joe Brady making both of his coordinators Sean Payton hires.
It's good for the Sean Payton tree. I kind of feel like, though, if you can't beat them, steal them. If the Bills couldn't beat the Broncos in the playoffs, so they'll take their coaches instead. That's fine. I mean, I would have preferred to keep Jim Leonard around as the eventual successor to VJ, but it looks like VJ is not going anywhere, and you can't keep everyone. Ultimately, it's a good look for the Broncos and a good look for the Sean Payton coaching staff that his tree is starting to bloom wider.
That's for sure, and you can even say that for VJ. Right? Like Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, he's had a couple of assistants go on to bigger and better things, like Jim Leonard moving on to becoming a DC, his first DC opportunity in the league. And let's not forget former secondary coach Christian Parker recently made the defensive coordinator, Zach, of the Dallas Cowboys. So kind of cool to see VJ's tree grow a little bit. Vic Fangio's started to branch out a little bit, but now VJ's catching up.
Yeah, and, as much as we all wanted to keep Leonard around, like you said, he deserved a defensive coordinating job. He wasn't going to be the passing game coordinator in Denver forever, Chad. This is a guy that had head coaching buzz when he was still at Wisconsin and when he was the interim head coach there. So the Broncos were fortunate to have him, but they knew for as long as VJ was still here, there was always a risk that he was going to get poached, and he finally did.
Some shouts in the chat real quick. We got the Papa Bear checking in. What's going on, David? The Papa Bear McElrath, a dear member, a Mount Rushmore superstar. By the way, the Mount Rushmore Superstar 2025 t-shirts will be going out this week. So get ready. Start looking for the t-shirts in the mail probably end of the week is what I would say. But Papa Bear, so good to see you, brother. Really appreciate you always jumping in, even before we go live, throwing down a super chat means the world to us, big dog. We also have Missed for Jay checking in with some gifting 10 MHH YouTube memberships, helping us keep the membership momentum strong in 2026. We really appreciate you, big dog. It's great to see you, and thank you for also being a dear member. Zach, we got some members here. We got the Ronk saying, hit those thumbs up, subscribe to the MHH podcast on YouTube, become a member of the Mount Rushmore supporters. Join it. Yes, dude. Don't forget the Discord, guys. Link is in the description. We got M. Bleck, speaking of the Discord, really helping to keep that thing thriving for us. Let's see who else we got. We got where'd it go? Here we go. David, hope you're doing well. David Youngkin saying, I'll be getting out of the hospital tomorrow. I hope if the morning test results are positive, prayers up for that, big dog. You have everybody's support here. You know that. Yep. And then also we got, look, check it out. Like Jordan giving some support in the chat. String guy, we got Raj saying, good evening. I'm totally interested in who we can get in free agency and who might fall to us in the draft. In short, how will Denver build this team to win the Super Bowl? Last season, it's over. What's next? Zach, we're starting to get, the draft thing's heating up quite a bit. Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl in the books. Next thing on the calendar is going to be the Combine at the end of this month. But how are you feeling about free agency? Any targets in particular that have caught your eye?
There's a few, like at running back. I don't know everyone's official status. I know the players that I want the Broncos to go after, and Raj, number one has to be building up Bo Nix's supporting cast. And like you said, how do you build the team to win the Super Bowl? I mean, you could argue they were built to win the Super Bowl this year if Bo Nix didn't get injured, so they're not that far off from it. But one thing is damn sure, he needs more help in the backfield, in the receiving core, at tight end. I saw Evan Ingram said he hopes to come back. I really don't care what he says. I want what's best for the team. So I think it's Ronk saying, yeah, Breece Hall, that's a name at running back. Tyler Algier from Atlanta, that's another name. I don't care if they have to trade capital, Chad, to get a receiver. I don't care if it's Garrett Wilson. I don't care if it's Justin Jefferson. I don't care if it's Jamar Chase. You have to turn over every single rock because they need a stud. They need a true number one at every single position. That is my objective, Raj, this offseason, is build up Bo Nix's war chest.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, what do we got to do to get to the Super Bowl? Just your quarterback not get hurt, right? Like your quarterback in the penultimate worst moment, not suffering a season-ending injury. I mean, the Broncos, coulda, woulda, shoulda. There's a few other little sayings I could throw out there, one of which Mike Tomlin's famous for saying, but that's how it shook out. Bo Nix got hurt, and so it was steady. The Broncos lost. But, Zach, I'm telling you, Bo Nix plays that game on the heels of the season in and of itself, all the belief, all that was built up from that. And of course, the wild win over the Buffalo Bills. I'm telling you guys, Broncos win that game and they go on, they're in the Super Bowl, and it would be tough. It'd be tough to predict a Broncos win over this Seahawks team, but man, the Broncos just kept surprising people every single game as the season wore on. So my point here, long-winded way, is saying that, as Zach opined, Broncos aren't that far off. They need, just like any team, a little bit of luck by way of the injury bug at the right time. It happened for them for the most part this year, and then it hit at the worst possible time. But there are some tweaks. Running back, wide receiver, got to figure out what you're doing at linebacker. You got to figure out if you're going to bring back John Franklin Myers, Zach, or are you going to bring back J.K. Dobbins, etc. But then the draft, for the most part, this team, Zach, has a full complement of draft picks.
Well, here's another tweak that they can't just sign in free agency or they can't draft. It's the coaching staff, and in particular, Sean Payton. One thing that needs to change, and I think it is changing so far based on the reports that we've read, is Sean Payton's play calling, his ego, and how those two things coalesce on game days. I've ranted about it on podcasts, on KK. It's plainly obvious that he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. And if he needs to consider giving up play calling to make the Broncos offense and the Broncos team better, then so be it. And we heard, Chad, that he was considering that for Joe Brady. So at least I think maybe he had that talk with himself in the mirror and he realized that he's part of the problem too. They could sign this guy and that guy, but the coach, that's where the buck stops with. And Sean Payton arguably cost him the game in the AFC title game.
We have Pearl, a dear member, checking in. Great to see you. And this is a nice little segue here. Ronk saying George Payton, the GM, deserves a contract extension. Out of the blue, Zach, we hear rumblings that George Payton is being connected somehow, some way, even though he's under contract in Denver, and all of the buzz and messaging from ownership and even Sean Payton is that George Payton's our GM. Great relationship. Look at what he's done, all that. And yet you had the story for us. So explain to people what's going on, what the rumor mill is. George Payton being connected to an outside NFL GM gig.
Yeah, so a couple days ago, the Vikings fired their GM, and I won't try to butcher his name, but they did fire him. And now they have an opening. And where did George Payton come from before he came to Denver? Minnesota. He was there for like 15 years. He was an assistant general manager. He called a lot of shots aside from Rick Spielman there in the front office. So that's the report from Diana Rossini of the Athletic. She stated that he's still well regarded in Denver, George Payton is, but there's internal league conversations circulating throughout the NFL of possibly bringing George Payton back to Minnesota for him to be the GM. Ultimately, I think what Ronk is saying there ends up happening, Chad. He's entering the final year of his contract in 2026, George Payton. I think it's more likely they re-sign him to an extension than let him walk to Minnesota.
Yeah, Kwesi, the GM that Minnesota just fired, paying the price, Zach, for basically letting Sam Darnold get away. And, it's tough deal. It'd be one thing if you let Sam Darnold get away and He goes on to do what he's done in Seattle, and your handpicked quarterback that you went all in on, forsaking Sam Darnold, ended up pulling through for you. Even if you didn't have, we went to the Super Bowl kind of year, but at least, we made the playoffs again, etc. But JJ McCarthy, Zach, it's not looking good in terms of his outlook. We'll see. He's still young. He's got plenty of time. But meanwhile, I can't see any world in which George Paton is not retained as the Broncos general manager. I mean, look, they did the Broncos, the NFL in Pro Bowl selections. They also had 6 All-Pros selected. You look at the wins last year, Zach, 24 regular season wins in the past 2 years, 1 playoff win, a division crown. Yeah, he's got egg on his face from the Russell Wilson thing and the Nathaniel Hackett thing, but I think what has been achieved since he was able to team up in tandem with Sean Payton, Zach, should balance those skills. And in fact, kind of give him some credit. Like he's not in the negative, he's in the positive. So I can't imagine the Broncos would move on from one of the most coveted and well-regarded GMs at this stage in the NFL.
He's also, like you said, earned the benefit of the doubt, considering how well he's drafted, Chad. I talk about Nick Benito and all the other Quinn Miners, all the other All-Pros and Pro Bowls he's imported to Denver. He does way more good than bad as a GM, and I would want him to stay for the long term.
George Fox on Facebook, great to see you, pal, saying, what's your opinion on Pickens from Dallas, Zach, as a wide receiver 1? What do you got for him? I mean, the Broncos have Cortland Sutton and then a collection of basically wide receiver 3 guys. They need a bona fide 2 that could really challenge Cortland Sutton for the wide receiver 1. Could it be Pickens?
It absolutely could be, George. The only downside with Pickens is his attitude. He exemplifies what a diva is as an NFL wide receiver, and there's always that ticking time bomb mentality with him. When things are good, he's fine. When things go bad, he can be a big distraction on the sideline in the locker room. I have a feeling that Sean Payton and the coaching staff and Bo Nix can rein him in, but it's still more of a gamble and more volatile than bringing in another receiver. But again, I'm open to anything. He would be a massive upgrade as a true wide receiver 1 over Cortland Sutton, and that's the number 1 objective.
No doubt, George. Good to see you, pal. Really appreciate you. We got Lawrence Rivera, another dear member and superstar, checking in. Great to see you, pal. And thank you for the support, as always, my friend. He says, what's up, everyone? We're correcting everything, hopefully. No overcorrection to the point we missed the mark. Peyton was Sean's scapegoat. He's tired of it. Do you see Sean Payton trying to scapegoat George Payton, Zach, for making a bad decision on 4th down in the AFC title game?
No, there was a scapegoat, but it wasn't George Payton. That was Joe Lombardi. And I don't care what Joe Lombardi says. I mean, for him, Sean Payton's longtime friend, to be fired right after that game and all the heat's on Sean Payton for 4th and 1, that was Lombardi. So no, Lawrence, you might be reading in too much to the title. There was that rumor about his name being circulated, but there's no trife, from what I can understand, going on in Denver right now. George and Sean genuinely love working together. And again, don't be surprised if he gets a contract extension to work alongside Sean Payton for the long term.
Guys, we got lots more to get to tonight. But first, listen up. Have you heard of Gold Belly? Guys, an amazing site where you can get the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the U.S. And it's perfect for a game day, like Super Bowl. Valentine's Day is coming up, guys. Anything else you got going on. And Broncos country, I'm telling you, the food is absolutely amazing. Gold Belly will ship you iconic Chicago deep dish pizza from Lou Malnati's, the original buffalo wings from Anchor Bar in Buffalo, Guy Fieri's unbelievable trash can nachos, real, actual Philly cheesesteaks, or even the legendary Franklin's barbecue straight from Texas to your door. And again, with Valentine's Day coming up, they also have great gifts like award-winning dinners from Peter Luger Steakhouse, world-famous macaroons from, I always screw this name up, La Dourie, and even the exact cake served at JFK's wedding to Jackie O.
Yeah, the Philly cheesesteak really caught my eye. It was absolutely delicious. It was high-quality grub delivered straight to my door, and it lived up to the lofty expectations I had and the legend of the Philly cheesesteak. It was like having a culinary piece of Philly shipped to me hassle-free. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get quality-wise from online food ordering sites, but Gold Belly absolutely absolutely delivers. I promise, guys, this tasted amazing. So whether you're looking to turn game day into an unforgettable experience with friends or want to impress a loved one on Valentine's Day, go to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code MileHigh. That's goldbelly.com, code MileHigh for 20% off your first order.
All right, back to the chat we go. We have Lady D checking in from the top rope. Love you so much, Deanna. Mount Rushmore finished at the top of the MHH Mount Rushmore in 2025. And we need that awesome, optimistic, positive perspective and insight that comes from the Lady D, who says, hey, Chad and Zach, do we know the coaching hires? I agree, Zach. We need number one receivers, really need to be aggressive and get elite players. We need to give the Mount Rushmore, Shannon Mills a name. What do you guys think? Go Broncos, MHH for life. I agree. She's Zach. Shannon is about due for a nickname. We'll have to give that some thought. We'll have to suggestions in the chat, guys, for Shannon Mills. Let's hear it. Also a dear member. Paton is not really in question, Shannon. We'll break that down more. But Zach, her thought here, her question though, I should say, about the coaching hires. The Broncos have not hired anyone yet, but a couple of their guys been hired away.
First of all, Deanna, my apologies. I was scrolling the MHH Mount Rushmore names in a separate tab, and I saw Michaela. So my apologies to you, Deanna. Thank you so much for your generosity, as always. And you're right. We do need a nickname for Shannon. Those come organically, so I'm sure the chat and everyone involved will have a good one for. In terms of the coaches, this was to be expected. Again, you can't keep everyone. And when you win 14 games, when you win the AFC, and when you win the games like you do, either with a great defensive play or a miracle kind of offensive comeback kind of play, you're going to get your coaches exposed to the rest of the NFL. Fortunately, despite them interviewing Ronald Curry, the Bills quarterbacks coach, and Brian Johnson, the former Eagles OC, who no Eagles fan even likes, it's looking like right now they're going to make Davis Webb the full-time OC. They interviewed him. It's looking like it's only a matter of time now, and that's the right move. That's the way to go. He deserves it. The only question is, will he call plays in 2026?
As far as coaching vacancies in Denver that need to get filled, I don't think they need to bring in a new senior offensive assistant to replace Pete Carmichael, because again, that was a role, a literal title that was created to basically just fit Carmichael into things. Davis Webb's going to be that new OC. So is it a new hire? We'll consider it one. So OC will get filled by Davis Webb. Zach, I don't think you can be the offensive coordinator. And even though you're not necessarily calling plays, we'll see how that shakes out. There are some questions there. And be the quarterback's coach. So I expect the Broncos to hire someone new to be day-to-day with the Bo Nixon in that room. We'll see on offense. On defense, you got to find a new secondary coach. Last year, Zach, they kind of split it up. They had Jim Leonard as the defensive pass game coordinator after he had moved on from just being the secondary coach. Now he's the pass game coordinator on defense. And so they assigned cornerbacks to Addison Lynch, who was one of the guys they fired last Tuesday. So just from the roles that have been created, let alone if Sean Payton brings anyone else in, there's a handful of jobs that have to get filled. And then also another name to keep an eye on is John Morton, who was the Broncos pass game coordinator for 2 years, left about this time last year to be the Lions offensive coordinator. Didn't last longer than 1 year after the Lions kind of took a step back, couldn't replicate what Ben Johnson was able to do, and they fired him. And yet Sean Payton hired him as a playoff consultant just for the playoffs. He's the guy that he was the brainchild, if you guys can remember, the iconic Frank Crum touchdown against the Bills. That came from a play that Morton put into the game plan. I expect him, Zach, to probably be rehired to the offense, whether it's pass game coordinator, some senior assistant, something like that.
And hopefully, if he's working with the receivers, he'll have a better group to work with because they'll make that their number one goal this offseason. For cornerbacks, people have asked me, too, who the Broncos might go after. I think it'd be fun if they chased a few legacy names like Champ Bailey, Aqib Talib, Chris Harris Jr. I think they'd make fantastic cornerback coaches, Chad.
Interesting. Guys, check this out real quick from Ben Gosling on X. Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores, his new deal is reportedly worth $6 million annually, surpassing Vic Fangio, who is roughly at $4.5 million annually, as the highest paid defensive coordinator, Zach, in NFL history. What?
Yeah, it's the market nowadays. I'll give Flores credit. Despite his lawsuit against the NFL, he runs a really tight knit, aggressive, fast paced, productive defense. So I don't know if he deserves all that money, but I do know he's one of the better DCs in the NFL.
He's roughly paid guys half or more than half the head coaches in the NFL. Like, just for context, Raheem Morris, formerly head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, he made roughly $4 million per year. So Brian Flores has less than half of the headaches of a head coach, and he's making more money than a lot of the guys with a head coaching gig in the NFL. Now, why does that matter? I mean, it just kind of goes to show that I think coordinators, Zach, will set aside head coaching ambitions if the money is right. Now, Vance Joseph's still under contract, but wouldn't surprise me at all, Zach, if at some point in the not too distant future, they throw some extra money at him to keep him happy. And I mean, it's kind of a shock, honestly. I thought when we were sitting here in December, it felt like a near lock. VJ was gone. And yet the Cardinals are going with Mike LaFleur. The last two jobs were Cardinals Raiders. Cardinals going with LaFleur, and the Raiders going with Clint Kubiak of the Seattle Seahawks. So VJ, he's sticking around.
Leverage is a wonderful thing in the NFL, and that's what Flores had. A lot of NFL teams were hot on his trail to become a head coach, and the Vikings really wanted him to be DC. So he basically, I'm assuming, named his price. Vance Joseph does not have that same leverage. He's not as in demand as Flores was, and teams aren't calling for him anymore. So that's why he's deciding now, Chad, conveniently, just to stay in his current post.
Speaking of Shannon Mills, the superstar,
Thank you,
the
Shannon.
dear member, here she is, checking in from the top rope. Appreciate you. We love you so much, Shannon. You know this. We're going to put our minds to figuring out a good nickname for you. But as Zach said, it's got to be organic. It's got to be real. She says, does Shannon, good evening. Thank goodness Paton isn't, George Paton that is, going anywhere. I was afraid that during the time I went out today, everything went insane. Go Broncos. Now she's, the headline is the headline. It's literally what one of the most reliable insiders in the NFL had to say by way of buzz and whatnot that she's picking up. And just to read it to a T, Zach summarized it earlier, but here's what Diana Rossini of The Athletic, posted on X. She said, quote, another name circling in conversations with league sources is former Vikings executive and current Broncos general manager George Paton, who still has strong internal relationships. Paton remains under contract with Denver and is well regarded by both Broncos ownership and head coach Sean Payton, closed quote. Zach, I still don't understand why this is even a question. Like, why is that even floating? You know what I'm saying? He's under contract. There's been zero, at least not publicly, right? Zero signaling that the Broncos are in any way, shape, or form dissatisfied with George Paton, looking to, fire him from his contract, cut him loose, let someone. That's not even like out there. So there is that slight concern where I'm going, why is this even a thing? Why is someone like Rossini, who is very reliable, reporting that? Is Paton as safe as we thought he was?
It is strange, too, because in January last month, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, again, one of the more reliable plugged-in guys around the league, said that signs are pointing to Paton re-signing with the Broncos because his deal does run out after 2026. But he added the addendum at the end. If he were to be available, he'd be a hot name around the NFL. So there was that little leak. There was this leak with Rossini, and I didn't put it together until William Catalano, I believe it was, in the comments said it might be George Paton's camp floating it out there for more money, putting it out there and getting his name out there. And now it makes sense. That's got to be it, Chad.
Very interesting. He wants perhaps some security. And honestly, I think from the Broncos, and I think he deserves it. Yes, again, the egg on the face, Russ, Hackett, but let's look at his skins on the wall. Just in terms of personnel, he drafted Quinn Miners, Pro Bowler and All-Pro. He drafted this team's franchise quarterback in Bo Nix.
The deep boy.
It was Patrick Surtain, drafted by
Benito.
George Paton, Nick Bonito. Let's see. Let's keep it going. I mean,
Cooper.
Yeah. I mean, most of the key players that you see out there representing your Broncos, like today in the Pro Bowl games and all that stuff, George, with the exception of Garrett Bowles, really, Zach,
Yep.
George Paton guys, and has it translated to the field? Has the good picks and the individual play translated to the standings, I guess is what I'm getting at. Yes, especially since they made the right coaching hire and brought in Sean Payton. The Paytons, although their names are spelled differently, Paytons, turns out, are a great dynamic duo. And I would argue, as a tandem, Zach, they're having a lot more success personnel-wise than Sean Payton even had with Mickey Loomis all those years in New Orleans. Like, New Orleans had a lot of missed draft picks, dude, and some pretty big free agent snafus. So I can't imagine the Broncos are looking to come off of George Paton, but this could be. That's an interesting, we'll call it a conspiracy theory that off the cuff kind of sounds like it could hold water. Why is George Paton, why would he float this? Is it because he wants to go back to Minnesota? I don't think so. It's because he wants, come on, guys, I'm going into my contract year here. Let's get me paid.
It's got to be. Yeah. And you also have to keep in mind all the other talent George Paton signed, through free agency, the Zach Allen and Hufanga. He has a really sharp eye for talent. He's a really great drafter and he's a really good scouter. He's a top 5 GM in the NFL. You could try to change my mind, but that's my opinion on George Paton. And I would hope, Shannon, and thank you so much for the super, that they would resign him to an extension this offseason. That's what I think is going to happen. The world is going insane right now. The stock market for sure is definitely going insane, but it seems like the Broncos, for the most part, status quo. They lost Jim Leonard. They lost a couple coaches, but VJ is staying. Davis Webb is staying. Bo Nix is on the mend. Sean Payton's staying. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay.
No doubt, guys. Lots more, Shannon, to get to, and everybody trust on that. But first, listen up, guys. Valentine's Day almost here. You got to ask yourself, how are you going to show yourself and those around you a little extra love? Whether it's for someone you love or just yourself. Cozy Earth, guys, makes it easy to bring comfort and care into your everyday life. This Valentine's Day season, they're offering a BOGO pajama deal. I say pajamas, not pajamas. You won't see any other time of year.
Guys, check out the bamboo pajama set. It's a classic Cozy Earth favorite, and it's the sleepwear upgrade that'll make you look forward to slipping in bed at night even more. Lightweight yet cozy, this soft pajama set helps you fall asleep faster and stay comfortable longer. Designed to drape beautifully and sleep cooler than cotton, it keeps your temperature just right without overheating. It makes for a great night's sleep.
And guys, here's what's cool. You can try them out, and if you don't love them, you can return them hassle-free, but trust, you won't want to. Cozy Earth offers customers a 100-night sleep trial as well as a 10-year warranty, because once you feel this level of comfort, you'll want it to last a decade.
And these viral PJs are so good, they sold out during the holidays. Now they're back with an exclusive deal only available January 25th to February 8th. So head on over to CozyEarth.com and use our code HuddleBOGO to buy one, get one free. Get these PJs for you and someone you love. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here at MHH. Celebrate every day, love with comfort that makes the little moments count.
You look at George Paton's resume real quick. Going back, so starts as a scout, an intern, and then a scout with the Bears, climbs up to their assistant director of pro personnel. So his job is really keeping an eye on the constant flow and status of NFL free agents, pro personnel. That gets him the actual director of pro personnel job, Zach, with the Dolphins for about 5 years. Then he moves to Minnesota under what was it, Spielman, Rick Spielman, and he goes to player personnel and eventually kind of climbs up the ranks there before he gets spotted and hired to be the Broncos GM. One of the reasons the Broncos have been so successful with personnel under George Paton is he's got that eye and experience in the free agent world and the draft. George, let's remember, you can't hit on all your picks. George has done great for our team, Broncos for life, MHH for life. I mean, who can you point to that he's missed on? At least in the draft. Maybe Zach, Drew Sanders, maybe Greg Dulcich you throw in there.
Yeah.
But Sanders is still kind of in the wind. He could perhaps become something. And Dulcich, we know, was a pick heavily influenced by Hackett in the room going, I want this guy. And George kind of, all right, want to make our head coach happy and feel part of what's going on here. Otherwise, I mean, even Javonte Williams Zach, even Pookie. Like, yeah, he didn't get the second contract. Some very extenuating circumstances. Look at where he's at. George Paton's the guy who drafted him. It's hard to really find flaws outside of course, and they were tectonic at the time. And frankly, not many GMs could have survived it. Somehow George Paton did. The Russ thing, the Hackett thing.
His drafting in the middle rounds in particular has been so bang on good. I don't know a better word, Chad. I mean, look at players like Jonah Ellis, for example. He'd be a starter on about 15 other teams. The Broncos have him as their OLB 3 or 4 right now. Keep it in mind also, again, the free agent additions, the little additions they've made. JFM doesn't get the headlines as a Zach Allen, but he's been an integral part of that defense and has helped make VJ better. So you could keep harping on, as you mentioned, Chad, the Nathaniel Hackett, the Russell Wilson. That was 4 years ago now. In the 4 years, the Broncos have improved drastically, and George Paton's been leading that charge.
My eyes are about to bug out of my head because Lady D's jumping in with an even more generous super chat, as she is wont to do. Hats off. You're getting the dome treatment here. Thank you so much, Lady D. We love you. And this is definitely, especially this time of year, really, really helps us keep the lights on here at MHH and keep us in a position to continue rocking it 7 nights a week. So thank you, Deanna. We love you. She says, I just really want the coaches to be set in stone. I'm impatient, and I want to know now. LOL. Why haven't they locked down Marvin Mims? My opinion, Mims needs more touches. Love you guys, MHH for life. We love you too. And you're definitely preaching to the converted over here, Lady D, as it applies to Marvin Mims. Now he's entering, Zach, a contract year. And I think the Broncos kind of have a decision to make, not just in terms of do we bring him back or not, but are we going to base his usage on offense around, well, we don't want to expose him too much because he's our all-pro / Pro Bowl returner? Or are you going to go all in on what he can actually bring to your offense? Look what he did for you against the Buffalo Bills. And then without Bo Nix, he was basically accounted for what? Like 70% of your yardage as an offense in the AFC title game. If you make him a point of emphasis the way Sean Payton, obviously Zach, chose to do in those 2 games, it pays dividends. And the great thing about Marvin Mims, aside from his measurables and his speed and his twitch and his suddenness and all that explosive energy that is Marvin Mims, I mean, this dude balls out in the critical moments. So when the chips are down is when you get the best from Marvin Mims. So I'm right there with you, Lady D. I don't know when they're going to get those coaching jobs filled, probably sometime in the next week or 2, but I'm right there with you on Mims.
Yeah, Chad, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you said like a week ago or so, you intimated, I don't care about his return upside. If he can help the Broncos offense, that's most important. And I want to see him blossom as a receiver. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. We don't know, Deanna, though, if Sean Payton agrees, whether he still views Marvin Mims as a gadget player, or maybe if the last stretch of the season kind of woke him up to what Marvin Mims can be. I mean, arguably the most reliable receiver you have. Not only is he staying healthy, but he's actually catching the passes. That's something that Sean Payton talked about after the Patriots lost. The receivers weren't catching the passes properly. So they're going to probably go all in on upgrading the supporting cast, but we know that Marvin Mims will be around, either going into the last year of his contract or on an extension. But regardless, what we feel around here, the company line is get him some more touches because he can make do with them. Thank you again, though.
No doubt. So what do you get? I mean, and that, what his future, how you as a team envision Marvin Mims' future will directly inform how you end up paying him if you do bring him back. So, you can afford to for another couple of years. Bo Nix, Zach, still on that cost-controlled contract for at least 2 more years. And then even if you end up picking up his 5th year before extending him, it's still relative to what he's worth on the open market, going to be good value. So keep those key role players, guys that can make a difference, man. You want to keep them around. So Lady D, we love you. Appreciate you so much. We'll see how it takes shape on Mims. They got some time there. Wouldn't surprise me if he gets an extension though, Zach, sometime this summer. But we'll see. Now we got one here from the Mile High Dutchie, Albert Knoppers, who says, so are you saying Mims is clutch like Bo? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I mean, it's a different animal when you compare a skill player who is quarterback dependent to a quarterback who's got the ability to spark the entire offense, touches the ball every snap, etc. But Bo Nix has the clutch gene, and I would argue Mims does as well. And you don't have to, Zach, just go to the AFC title game and the Bills game. I mean, down the stretch, 2024, do you guys remember? He was single-handedly the reason the Broncos ended up forcing that Bengals game into overtime. And if Sean Payton kind of finds his cashews at the end of that game and goes for two, maybe they win that game and end up with 11 wins and not having to wait till week 18 against the Chiefs to get their playoff clinching victory that got him the 7th seed. I digress. But yes, that's what I'm saying, brother. Brad Murdoch in the house. Great to see you, pal. Thank you for being a member and for a very generous super chat. What's up, everyone? Good to see the duo back on together tonight. Yes, sir. It feels good. All is right in the universe.
That's right. Yeah, and it's funny. Thank you so much, Brad. But to put a bow on our Marvin Mims conversation, when you bring up the name Marvin Mims to me, the number one thing I think about is that Bengals game. The 2 touchdowns, the miraculous catch he made, Chad. He could be so much more than what Sean Payton is restricting him from being. And I know someone said his route tree is still horrendous. You can coach that. You can work with that. We're not expecting him to be Randy Moss, but he brings an element to the table that not another receiver currently on the Broncos does. And I want to exploit that if I can for the time being.
No doubt about it. Hold on real quick. I'm just getting something here that I'm going to grab a link here that I found that's very important. Brad, love you, buddy. Thank you so much for the support, big dog. Any specific topics, questions you might have, my brother, get it in the chat. Now, real quick, guys, I want to take care of something here that is near and dear, close to our hearts. Now, those of you who have been to the MHH meet and greets, maybe not the last couple years, but Albert and his awesome wife, Michelle, have been very supportive of MHH, part of the family, so to speak. And Albert's going through a situation where he's not born in the U.S. and he has kind of emigrated here, but his status is in question. And with what's going on right now relative to the current administration and immigration, he's in a tight situation. I'm not educated enough on all the details to tell you every little angle, but basically in order for him to stick and stay with his family in the States, he's got a pretty expensive legal battle ahead of him. And so we want to encourage folks, if you're in a position, Albert could use your help. He's got a GoFundMe rocking and rolling right now. And I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And if you're in a position to donate and help him out for the legal fund, check it out. And I know he would appreciate it. And his awesome wife, Michelle, Albert, the Mile High Duchy, you know you got our support, big dog. So best wishes to you, and what we can do, we're going to do, big dog. All right, Zach, back to the chat and the conversation at hand. Pearl says, are they going to keep going for 2 or take that away? Meaning like the 2-point conversion. I don't foresee that going anywhere, Zach, but it is kind of interesting. Sean Payton recently just got put back on the NFL competition committee.
All right.
How much that serves the Broncos, we'll see, but now he has even more say on stuff like that.
Maybe they can get the refs off of Riley Moss's case now that Sean Payton's on the committee, but I don't know, Pearl, what they're going to do with the 2-point. I would assume it's staying. Yeah, that'll be in the season for 2026.
And yeah, Todd, I think Mims showed a lot in that game against the Bills. He showed a lot in that game against the Patriots, man. I mean, Cortland Sutton ended up getting the touchdown to kind of polish off that drive, but boy, oh boy, he made a move against a very good, I'm trying to remember who the DB was in coverage on that play, but Marvin Mims, man, he's a guy that could do so much more for your offense. And I go, why wasn't he the number 2? Sean Payton, Zach, really trying to speak into existence the Troy Franklin ascension. Mm-hmm. Now, is that because in Sean Payton's head, he's the next best guy, period? Or was it because he's the next best guy, not counting Marvin Mims, because I need Marvin Mims healthy on punt returns? After all pro bowler. He's the only guy in Denver Bronco history to get Pro Bowls and all pros in each of his first 2 seasons, besides Von Miller. Let's keep him there where he does. I mean, I would argue, Zach, you can do both. You can still
Right.
keep him out
Yeah.
there returning punts, let him do that, and still feature him as a key player. But if push comes to shove and you got to choose between the two, I think we saw in both those games, just in the playoffs, which one ends up being more valuable from kind of a down-to-down basis. Marvin Mims needs to be a bigger focus in this offense, and I think it could solve a lot of the problems. Not just that straight line speed, Zach, to take the top off, but who is the best guy on offense with the ball in his hands, meaning yards after catch potential? It's Marvin Mims. The problem is you didn't use him in that respect at all this season, and you should have.
Right. He was also the most available in the AFC title game. And I like Troy Franklin's upside, but he can't help the team when he's injured, Chad, and he had the hamstring. Pat Bryant, I like his potential, but he was concussed. Pat Bryant seems like he's a walking injury. I hope that's in a 2025 thing, and going forward he can and avoid injury. But Marvin Mims is reliable because he's on the field, and when the pass is thrown at him, get this, he actually catches it. Go figure. What a concept.
So, very reliable hands. Maybe people don't think that when the name Marvin Mims Jr. comes to mind, but that dude's hands are reliable, dude. And even more so when it's got to be there, man. Marvin Mims, I still think back to that second touchdown that he scored, Zach, against the Bengals 2024. So that was his second year. Bo Nix flushed out of the pocket, rolls right. I want to say something like somewhere between 25 to 35 yards out. Mims double coverage, but Bo gives him a chance, chucks it up that far right corner of the end zone. Mims, who's not exactly the tallest dude, what is he, 5'11", goes up over two Bengals guys, comes down with the ball, touchdown. And right then and there, if Sean Payton goes for two and they succeed, they win the game, it doesn't go to overtime, it's over. He decides to play for overtime. Joe Burrow gets a drive, and that was that. But Marvin Mims, man, I'm telling you, he is a dynamic guy that could solve a lot of the problems that right now, Zach, Broncos country goes, what do we need out there and to bring to the team? Well, Marvin Mims could check a lot of those boxes if you just used him that way.
And think back to the first touchdown. What did he do on that play? He just dusted his nearest defender, Chad, and Bo launched a 60-yard dime in the end zone. That's something that Mims can do that another receiver on the Broncos simply cannot do, and do it consistently and do it reliably. So yeah, give 19 more touches, please, Sean.
If memory serves, that first touchdown you just referenced was the farthest pass in the NFL air yards wise the entire 2024 season. So that's kind of cool too. But anyway, we'll see. Yeah, and this is something Todd who brings up. Sutton's drops were about 4% this year. Look, the Broncos finished second in the NFL in drops. They had 43. Only one team had more than the Denver Broncos. And this unfortunate pattern continued into the playoffs. Now, thank God the Broncos were able to overcome a couple of drops in that Bills game. But without Bo Nix there to raise all the ships, the drops came back to haunt you big time with Stiddy in the AFC Championship game. And Sean Payton was incensed. Like literally immediately after the game, he mentions the drop thing unprompted. 2 days later, he mentions it again in his end of season press conference. And about an hour after that presser ends, we get the news. Guess who's fired? Wide receivers coach Kerry Colbert, who was one of the names actually I don't think we mentioned earlier. That's another job that has to be filled on offense. Kerry Colbert and Sean Payton, Zach, thumbs need to be together. When you catch the ball, it's got to be like this, no matter what the angle. The only exception is if you're catching below the belt, basically. And even then, he says, maybe pinkies together. I don't know. But he wasn't happy with, however, Zach, the technique was being taught clearly, which is a little bit surprising when you realize Kerry Colbert's a former NFL pro receiver. Like, he even spent time with the Broncos. Like, why is this not being communicated effectively through technique and implementation? I don't know. But you're going to be seeing a new receivers coach in Denver. Let's hope it helps with the drops issue.
Yeah, sometimes students don't make good teachers. Just because they play doesn't mean they'll make good coaches. And this was an issue. To be fair to Colbert, this was an issue with Sutton that has lasted beyond just 2025. And it's not just that Sutton will drop passes, it's that he seems to drop them in the worst possible situations late in the game, in the end zone, on third down. It's never just like in the first quarter on a first down pass. That's what's frustrating about Cortland. And then he'll go out, Chad, and make an impossible triple covered catch, a contested catch. That's not a true number one receiver. That's why I feel like the Broncos need to bring that guy in, because you can't really rely on Cortland Sutton, as much as it pains me to say.
Pains me as well, guys. We're at about 45 minutes. We're doing all right time-wise, but if you have burning questions, topics, supers, get them in the chat before we dip out of here, guys. Raj says Franklin has speed, but the ball has to be thrown perfectly or he can't make the catch. I don't know, man. I'll say this about the hands and the over-the-shoulder tracking the ball thing. That was clearly an issue as a rookie. I thought he took some pretty big strides in both aspects, reliability in catching and over the shoulder. I thought he made some pretty big plays for this team, but still he's just not enough. He's a wide receiver 3 being kind of pushed and asserted, Zach, as a wide receiver 2. I mean, 700 yards, second on the team. That's not nothing. The Broncos do need a guy who can bring more to the table.
How we feel about Troy Franklin, Sean Payton feels about Marvin Mims as just nothing but a gadget player, just not a true long-term starter. And I see people, Todd mentioning the catch rate for Franklin, 62.5. Keep in mind also how many of those receptions that he actually caught were screen passes at the line of scrimmage or near the line of scrimmage. It's inflating those numbers quite a bit. He did make an improvement, like you said, as a receiver, but there were too many chances or too many opportunities where he missed. He didn't track the ball properly. He dropped the ball. A lot of points were left on the table because of Troy Franklin.
I'm trying to find his exact stats on drops. I'll see if I can find it here in a minute. But, oh, my goodness gracious. Lady D again off the top rope.
Incredible.
Talk about helping us keep the lights on. And I don't know if you heard at the top of the show, Lady D, but the Mount Rushmore T-shirts / care packages for 2025 will be going out this week. So be watching for that in the mail in the not too distant. She says, and again, Scott and I were talking about this real quick. Scott and I were talking about this together during our Tommy Boy road trip to the Senior Bowl last week. And we were just talking about how every single super chat we get blows our mind and really touches our heart, touches our soul, means the world to us. It's so important to us, and we understand what it means and this symbolism and the sacrifice in your life to be able to do that for us and what we do here. It's genuinely and truly an honor for us, and we do not take it for granted. We appreciate it more than we could ever convey to you. I hope you know that, Lady D. So we love you, all of you, and give our best to David, your hubby. She says, my opinion, Mims does so much more than John Franklin Myers. Mims is clutch and produces more. However, we still need a receiver 1. Sutton drops too many balls. An RB1 is needed too. Coach Payton blames everyone but himself, my opinion. Love Coach Payton, but he frustrates me too. MHH for life. Yeah, I mean, he kind of was wishy-washy, Zach, on the subject of the fourth down. He's like, yeah, I regret the fourth down thing, but not for the reasons you think I should. I just regret the play call. I don't regret that I didn't take the points. I just regret that I called the play that I did instead of the play that I originally had to. Now, just say, you know what? Hey, man, I made the decision as best I could in the moment. I felt like we had an opportunity. He did say this. I felt like we had an opportunity to really get up early and exploit and capitalize on the momentum that we'd established early. But it would have been good for Broncos country to hear him then say, but you know what? In hindsight, it probably would have been a better decision to just take the points, knowing how the game would unfold, etc. But he ended up kind of splitting it down the middle. Yeah, I made a mistake, but not for the reasons that you think I made a mistake. And but that's guys like him, Zach, can afford to live that way because the buck stops with him, and no one's going to fire him after winning 14 games, a playoff game, first division crown in a decade, first 1 seed in a decade. You know, he's pretty much impervious to any and all threat in Denver for, I would say, probably at least the next 2 years. Now, if the Broncos are unable to punch forward from beyond what they've gotten to up to this point with Peyton, maybe he starts the ownership, Zach, starts going, man, we we're not fully capitalizing on Bo's young portion of his career. I don't see it shaking out that way. But my point is, this is the spoils, Zach. He gets to do that because he's the head coach and he has a lot of say in that building.
Yeah, Deanna, first of all, as always, thank you so much. Words cannot describe how generous you are and how much we appreciate it. Genuinely, I sound like a broken record. I know Chad does too, but we talk about it off camera, on camera. You are incredible. Thank you so much. In this aspect, Chad, Coach Paton reminds me of a petulant child that no matter what information you present to him, he will always have a comeback. He never thinks he's wrong. He will always have a retort, and he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, for better or for worse. And that's Sean Payton. He's a tremendous football coach, a tremendous offensive mind, but that's his biggest bugaboo is his ego and him standing in his own way and shooting himself in the foot. We saw that on 4th and 1, and like Chad said, he really didn't own it. He kind of did, but kind of didn't. But then watch his actions, not his words. What'd he do after? He fired Joe Lombardi. Then it's looking like he's going to make Davis Webb the OC and maybe give him play calling. So again, as I said in the beginning of the show, at least since the end of the AFC title game and right now, it seems like Sean had a come to Jesus moment with himself, and that's what he needed more than anything.
Amen to that. Yep. Amen. Lawrence jumping in again. Thank you, brother. Saying we need a true receiver like a Stephon Diggs. Is anyone free? Zach, I don't know how much you've really looked ahead to the free agent market at wide receiver, but there's not a ton of great options. There are a couple very intriguing ones. There's also the trade block where you could maybe try to revisit Jalen Waddle, but
yes,
I mean, the whole reason that didn't happen at the deadline was the Kings' ransom that the Dolphins were asking for. Broncos were like, that's a bridge too far. Has the situation really changed that much in terms of the way the Broncos view it? I'm saying, what are your thoughts here for Lawrence?
Well, he's right. There's not anyone they can sign that's going to give them that impact. They're probably going to have to trade for him. Chad mentioned Jalen Waddle. There's Garrett Wilson. There's Drake London from Atlanta. There's a bunch of players that you could call about. JJ is a popular one from Minnesota. It's not going to happen, but it's worth picking up the phone and at least seeing his asking price because, again, number one most important goal is get Bo Nix a true number one stud, a true difference maker. Not a Cortland Sutton, not an Evan Ingram, not an RJ Harvey, a true, no doubt about it, proven guy. If that means sacrificing a couple draft picks, so be it. Go out and get him.
Now, George Pickens is projected to be unrestricted free agent, not projected. Like that's the direction it's heading. Zach, do you see the Cowboys making a big play to keep him around before he hits the market?
I do. I could see that. I mean, they locked down CD Lamb. They would be investing a lot of money into one receiving or one position, but they were so productive last year, Chad. It's hard when you have an offensive-minded coach, and despite how your season went, you have your franchise quarterback in Dak, and they had success. I would be surprised if they let Pickens get away.
I mean, he finished, for what it's worth, guys, 93 catches, 1,429 yards, 9 touchdowns.
Beast.
That juxtaposed by CD Lamb, who appeared in 3 less games and finished with 1,075 catches, 1,077 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So their number 2 guy gave you Denver's number 1 production, right? So, I mean, Sutton did have more touchdowns than CD did, but in terms of the reception, Zach, and the yardage, you can see what the difference is, right? Like there's Cortland Sutton is like a high level. Ideally, he's a high level wide receiver too. And you have a dynamic game changer to complement him, like a George Pickens. Hard to do, though. I mean, it'll be easier to go out and find a legit RB1, Zach, than it will be to just pluck a wide receiver one, a true top guy out of the ether. You might have to go to the well and draft and develop, not more 3rd and 4th round guys, but, use some resources, Zach, to get one of the top dudes in the draft, even though a little bit harder, a little more complicated, let's just say, this time around with how deep into the 1st round the Broncos are picking 30th overall.
If anyone's been following what the Bengals have been doing on offense, that's kind of the situation where I want the Broncos. Like Chad laid out, ideally, Cortland Sutton is a high-end wide receiver too. They don't have, in their case, in Cincinnati, they have T. Higgins. The Broncos don't have that Jamar Chase, though. They don't have that high-end wide receiver one. Courtland Sutton paired with a wide receiver one would make Courtland Sutton better. But forcing Courtland Sutton to be a wide receiver one when he's a wide receiver two is making him worse. He needs his Batman because he should be the Robin, not the Batman. I don't care who Chris Olave, another name. Mike Evans, another name. I don't care who it is. Go out and get that number one receiver.
Well said. And I think another part of it too is just wide receiver usage. Like Sean Payton, so many screens, man. Like, oh my gosh, the screen heaven in Denver. So you look, for example, Troy Franklin only had 10 fewer receptions than CeeDee Lamb. The difference is CeeDee Lamb's catches were down the freaking field. Troy had averaged 10.9, so we'll call it 11 yards per reception. You look at Pickens, he averaged 15. You look at CD, he averaged 14.4. So if you take Troy's 65 receptions times it by 14.4, even just CD Lamb, he's basically a fringe 1,000-yard receiver, but that's just kind of the usage. He caught a lot of screens this year, Zach, a lot of underneath stuff. He did make a few big plays downfield, but for the most part, that's how Sean Payton used him.
And if he wants to be the gadget guy going forward, if he wants to be the screen guy, so be it. I just don't see that long-term CeeDee Lamb potential in Troy Franklin. I don't see a Jamar Chase, and I want the Broncos to finally have that guy instead of nickel and diming for the last decade.
I agree with you here, Ronk. Concepcion is a guy I would love to see if he's still on the board at 30, or even if you're sitting there, Zach, at 30, and it's like pick 26, 27, and he's on the board. I would maybe even look at doing a deal to move up and get him. I like him a lot. There are some other interesting wideouts in this class, including a few that Scott and I watched last week at the Senior Bowl. Two guys that jumped out to me the most was Malachi Fields of Notre Dame and Jacoby Lane of the USC Trojans. But I don't think either one of those guys are going to be George Pickens in the league.
Yeah, and at this point, I know it's they're all lottery tickets, but I would rather the Broncos take the 30th pick and trade it for a proven receiver, because if they trade for a proven receiver, that guy, no matter what, will be better than anything they take at 30.
Check this out. As a parting gift, so to speak, Lady D, on the heels of some massive super chats, has gifted 20 memberships to the Mile High Huddle YouTube to folks in this chat. She joins in that arena, that pursuit. Also, our dear friend Sean, aka Mist for J, and we appreciate you. And look, last week we kind of were off our game a little bit in terms of the membership stuff because we were traveling and weird stuff. But we're back on regular schedule and whatnot. You're going to get Kelberman's Corner on Tuesday, noon Mountain Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. I'll be doing my show for the members only later in the week. So if you are one of the new members that just received this gift from the Lady D, you will have access to those shows, only members on YouTube.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dan. Again, it sounds like a broken record, but you deserve to hear that at the very minimum. Appreciate all your generosity. Thank you so much.
She's just a great friend and a great member of this family. I mean, even like last year when my little passion project, my band that I do for fun, dropped a new album, she bought the actual physical vinyl LP. I signed one for her, shipped it to her. She's just awesome. And Lady D, so thankful we have you in our corner and in our lives and part of this family here at MHH. So, all right, guys, we got a few messages for you. Then we're going to take one last look at the chat before we dip. So don't leave quite yet.
Another tremendous installment of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single show, check out mhhmerch.com and get your swag on, as it says there. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you haven't done so yet, please join the MHH Discord server. The link is in the description below. Come talk with us. Hang out with us. It's very fun stuff going on. If you're listening to our show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, 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 very important as always that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
No doubt about it. Pearl says, love your music. I
checked.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Checking it out, Pearl. Raj has a direct question for Zach. He says, I like some of the D-line options where we draft in round 1. Do you want to trade our first round pick to get a already established receiver?
It would depend on the receiver, Raj, who else becomes available. If I can get Jalen Waddle for 1 first rounder and that's it, I'm probably pulling that trigger, because Jalen Waddle with that first rounder will be way more impactful and way more productive than some defensive linemen at 30. So yeah, depending on the receiver at this point, with what I saw in the playoffs and how much Bo sacrificed to get him to that point, yeah, I'm pulling the trigger probably.
Thank you, Ronk, saying great show tonight. Chad and Zach on the MHH podcast. Go Bo Broncos. I love it. A mile high salute, a special shout out to all the great Super Chat superstars, supporters, and dear members tonight, helping us keep the lights on, like the Papa Bear. Before we even went live, dropping a Super Chat. Missed for Jay. Thank you, Sean. George Fox on Facebook. Lawrence Rivera, multiple supers. Lady D, multiple top rope supers. Shannon with a very generous super. Let me see here. Brad Murdoch, brother. Thank you so much, big dog. And let's not forget Lady D with the memberships too. So that's 30 MHH YouTube memberships gifted in just tonight's stream. And we hope that those 30 folks who were able to get those subscriptions, that we earn your sub and you stick with us after 30 days. But love you guys. What's today? Sunday. So Zach and I will see you tomorrow night. We'll see what's cooking, what the new week, the new business week has in store for the Broncos. Still lots of business to be handled, Zach, relative to the coaching staff. And we'll see where these George Paton rumors ultimately lead us. Hopefully nowhere other than perhaps an extension.
Exactly. Have a great rest of your Sunday, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.